Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make vellum candle wraps. To begin, we are here in Design Space with all of my project elements already on the canvas. Over on the right side, I have 3 rectangles, which are my templates for what size my winter scenes can be for the vellum. I measured them, and those are the size of the vellum that will fit around my candles. I'm getting started on my first scene. My scene with my little deer family. I'm just doing the basics. I'm resizing, I'm placing. You will see me do that a few times. This is not the end product by any means. I've taken my snowy tree scene and I've duplicated it, and now I'm detaching all of the layers from one another so that I can manipulate it and make it what I want it to be. I deleted the tree, and now I'm trying to figure out how I want the snow and the snowy ground to be. I also deleted the large snowflakes because I just want those little dots. Now what I've done is I've inserted a shape and I unlocked the aspect ratio so I could make it the size I needed it to be, and I'm using the slice function. What that's going to do is remove it from being attached to all those little snowflakes so that I can resize it, and I'm going to be flattening out the ground just a little bit so that it's a little bit more of what I want it to be. This was important for me to be able to do without those little snowflake dots because I didn't want to manipulate those dots at all, but I definitely need to manipulate the ground. So as you can see here, I have flattened it out just a little bit. What I did was I manipulated a half circle, and then when I had it where I wanted it to be, I clicked on that combine button, and then at the top was the weld option. What weld does is it essentially exactly what it's called. It welds 2 shapes together into one. Now what I've done is with my rectangle outline for my vellum piece, I used the slice feature so that I could get the ground to fit that piece exactly. And then I welded that background back together because I didn't want it missing. So now I'm just making some more tweaks to my little deer family real quick. And then I am going to play with the snow. I duplicated it and I'm making it smaller so I don't have such large dots for my snow. And then I'm going to be using a second version of that and using that same slice feature to get rid of all of the excess. I flipped that image upside down just so I could make it look a little bit better with my snowflakes. Again, just moving the deer around a little bit, trying to make it just perfect how I want it to be. Okay, and for now, I am going to leave that panel, if you will, how it is, and I'm moving on to the second one. Again, you're gonna see a lot of the same stuff going on, a lot of slicing and welding and just moving things around to make it what I want it to be. I'm also using the contour option that's down in the bottom right-hand corner. Contour is a really cool feature. It allows you to remove elements of your image without using the shape and the slice feature like I've been doing. It just depends on what exactly you need to do to determine whether or not you'll use contour or slice. Okay, so I'm just wrapping up and I am welding all of the layers together again so that when I cut them out with my machine, the Design Space program doesn't try to move images around to where it thinks that it should go. I'm trying to make sure that they all end up where I want them to be. Okay, now we're ready to cut. I clicked on Make It, and now I am searching for the material that I'm going to be using. I am not using a Cricut vinyl. I am using Tech Wrap Craft vinyl, but it's going to be very similar to Cricut material, and so I just selected a holographic vinyl. Okay, I am just going to prepare all of my materials before I begin cutting. I like to cut my vinyl into the size of pieces that I need so that I can get the rolls out of the way and have a clear space while I cut out my vinyl. I also don't like putting big pieces of vinyl on a sticky mat just because I don't want to risk the integrity of my vinyl in any way, shape, or form, but it is 100% a preference thing. I'm also cutting my Tech Wrap transfer tape to the size that I need it to be so that it's easy and ready to go when the time comes. All right, now I'm ready to begin. First, I'm going to remove the protective sheet from my cutting mat that I'm using so that I can apply the vinyl. As soon as I get that adhered nicely to the mat, I'm going to stick it inside my cutting machine. One thing to note here, I'm sure it goes without saying, but I just want to make sure it's clear. I have sped the video up. The machine does not cut this fast, unfortunately. Okay, now that everything is done cutting, I'm going to remove it from the machine, push that machine out of the way, and remove the vinyl from the mat. To remove it without damaging it, it's best to flip over the mat and roll it away from the vinyl. By rolling the mat away, it prevents it from bubbling, damaging, ripping, anything like that as you remove it from the mat. To make the vinyl easier to work with as I weed it, I'm cutting the 12 by 12 piece in half. Okay, here we go. Here is the weeding process. For anybody who may be new here, weeding is removing all of the excess vinyl that you will not be using in your project, like you can see me doing here. When I'm weeding big chunks of vinyl like I'm doing here, I always start in a corner and then I move back and forth so that I can make sure that I'm getting different angles of pressure so that as I'm removing that excess vinyl, I don't risk pulling up pieces that I want to stay or causing any kind of ripping. I just want to make a note here that this Tech Wrap vinyl is an absolute dream to work with. It cut so perfectly, it was so easy to weed, and I just cannot recommend it enough. It was a very quick and easy weeding process. Okay, on to the next steps. I am going to use the transfer tape to transfer the vinyl from the original backing that the vinyl comes on and transfer it over to the transfer tape so that when the time comes, I'm ready to then transfer it to my vellum. To help with the adhering, I'm using this scraper. I'm going to first start on the top side and then I flip it over and scrape on the bottom as well. By scraping on the bottom, what I'm essentially doing is pushing the vinyl off of the backing and onto the transfer tape for an easier transfer, so that as I pull that backing away, I don't have pieces left stuck on that backing. Okay, now I'm transferring to the vellum. I'm going to hover just slightly above it so that I can get everything lined up, and then I'm going to set it down and use that same scraper to get the vinyl adhered to the vellum. As I mentioned when I was weeding, when I'm removing transfer tape, I like to use that same back and forth motion of pulling from the different angles so that I make sure, again, not to damage the vinyl. I'm not creating bubbles. I'm not risking pulling vinyl up and ripping it as I'm pulling that transfer tape off. Another tip that I have for you is to save the backing from your transfer tape. Transfer tape can be used multiple times, so don't feel like you have to throw it away just because you've used it once or twice. You can use it until you feel like it's not effective anymore. Okay, time to put the vellum on the candles. I'm using clear Scotch tape on the back side of the candle to hold the vellum in place. All right, all finished. And then here they are glowing in the dark. They're so beautiful. And then here they are again in the light so that you can see that beautiful holographic rainbow. Thanks for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you have questions, please be sure to comment. See you next time.